You've opened a position, you go inside, you see it move, and then you check your P&L for the day. Maybe you've hit your daily target, or even your weekly target. Suddenly, terror sets in. What if it goes back down? What if you lose all your hard-won profit? It's happened before. You can remember times you held. It didn't hit target, and you watched it go all the way down. It still hurts as you think about it now. Suddenly, the money becomes real. You start thinking of what you could spend it on, or how nice it would be to have that third, fourth, or fifth green day in a row. And then it happens so fast, you barely register it. You close the position. Only to watch the trade go and go all the way to target. And you got out only 30% of the way there. What could have been a great month now has been downgraded to a decent week. You've made progress from a P&L perspective, but deep down, you know you've underperformed. If that's you, I want you to understand something. This isn't a strategy problem. This isn't an indicator problem. This isn't even really a trading problem. It's a you problem. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 simple tools anyone can use to stop cutting your trades early. But before we get into that, I want you to understand why we close positions early in the first place. Because without that, the tools won't make any sense. In performance coaching, there's a concept called the execution gap. It's basically the distance between what someone is capable of doing and what they actually do in a high pressure situation. Ever seen a world-class footballer kick a penalty way over the crossbar when he's playing in a massive game? Then you know exactly what this looks like. You are capable of holding your trade. You know this because you've done it before. You know what your target is. You know the logic behind your setup. But the moment that trade goes green, something shifts. And suddenly, you're not operating from your analysis anymore. You're operating from fear. That's the gap. It's theory versus execution under pressure. And that's why so many traders struggle when they go live for the first time, even when in sim, they were doing great. And here's what makes trading uniquely brutal. The pressure never stops. Every candle is a new test. That constant question in your mind of, do I sell now? What about now? Now? The worst thing, in order to lose the battle, you only need to submit to this urge once. And that's why the odds are so against you. And that's why the execution gap in trading is so wide. Let me walk you through what happens physiologically, because this is where it gets really interesting. When your trade moves into profit, your brain doesn't register, great, the plan is working. Your brain registers resource acquisition and immediately shifts into conservative protection mode. You've got something now, something that could be taken away, and your brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, fires up. This is the same mechanism that kept your ancestors alive when they had to protect food or territory. It's ancient, it's hardwired, and it doesn't care one bit about your trading plan. What follows is a hormonal cascade. Cortisol starts rising. Your focus narrows. Instead of hours, you start thinking in minutes. Instead of minutes, you think in seconds. You stop thinking in terms of your original 1 to 3 risk reward, and you start thinking in terms of worst case scenario. What if this reverses? What if I lose it all? And then you click close. And for a brief moment, relief. Your nervous system settles, cortisol drops, and you feel like you made a smart decision. You bank to win. But that relief is a lie. Because then price moves to your target and the regret floods in. And the next trade you place now, you feel even more nervous. So you do the only sensible thing. You close the trade early again because you want to feel that relief now. Because the fear of making a mistake is even stronger. And this creates a cycle of self-sabotage. It's called conditioned avoidance. You've trained yourself unconsciously and repeatedly to avoid the discomfort of holding instead of optimizing for profit. Now I want to go a little deeper because there's something underneath the physiology which doesn't get talked about enough. When you close a trade early, you're not just making a tactical error, you're making a statement about who you are. Every behavior you repeat consistently becomes part of your identity. You cut one winner too early, your brain thinks, I traded that timidly. You do that 50 times and your brain now thinks, I'm a timid trader. This new trading identity, when someone takes small wins, someone who doesn't trust themselves, someone who needs the quick relief more than the long-term results. The trader who holds through discomfort isn't doing so because they don't feel fear. They feel it just as intensely. The difference is their internal narrative. They built an identity of someone who executes the plan regardless of how they feel. So here's something I want to challenge you directly on, because I think most people in the trading space frame patience wrong. Patience is not passive. It's not sitting there doing nothing. Patience, from a performance standpoint, is one of the most active and demanding disciplines a human being can practice. Think about what holding a trade actually requires in real time. You have to absorb a fluctuation against you and consciously choose not to react. You have to sit with that physical sensation, the discomfort, that tightness in the chest, the urge to do something and override it. You have to manage an internal monologue that is consistently generating reasons to exit, and you have to evaluate each of those reasons against your original plan rather than your current emotional state. Elite performers in every field train this skill deliberately. Free throw shooters practice taking shots under crowd noise. Surgeons train in high distraction environments. Famous chess champion who hated smoking paid his practice partners to blow cigarette smoke in his face while they played against him so he could practice making great decisions while stressed and angry. They're not just practicing the skill, they're practicing the skill while managing their internal state. Traders almost never do this. They practice entries on demo accounts in calm, low-stakes environments, and then they go live and wonder why they fall apart. Because they've trained in technical skills, but never trained in performance skills. There's a huge difference between singing in the shower to singing in front of a crowd. Here's an example. 2 traders enter the same position. Same setup, same entry, same target. Trader A has a solid strategy, but he's never worked on his performance psychology. When the trade moves in his favor, their nervous system activates. The protection instinct kicks in, and they close for a small win. Relief, followed by regret. Then they tell themselves they'll do better next time. Trader B has the same strategy, feels the same fear, the same pull to close, but they've done the internal work. They build what performance coaches call emotional tolerance, the capacity to sit with discomfort without being controlled by it. They feel the urge to exit and they consciously name it. That's fear. That's not my plan talking. And they hold. Same market, same setup, completely different outcomes. Now multiply that against 6 months and hundreds of trades. So here are the 5 tools that will help bridge the gap. Before you enter any trade, you need a brief mental rehearsal, not just the setup. Close your eyes for 30 seconds and visualize the trade going in your favor, then pulling back, then grinding sideways, then hitting your target. Don't see the trade going perfectly in a straight line. Visualizing perfect scenarios doesn't build resilience because when things don't go perfectly, your brain will feel lost. So tool 1 is to practice in your mind first. Here's the next tool. Emotion is the loudest in the moment, which means the moment your trade is live is the worst time to be making decisions. So make sure you make them beforehand. Write down before you place a trade. I will close this trade early only if, and then specify the actual conditions. A specific price level, a specific candle formation, something concrete and objective, not if it feels weak, not if I get nervous, something measurable. The reality is maybe 90% of the time the plan should be stuck to, and only 5% or 10% of the time that you actually need to deviate from it. This removes the decision from emotional territory and will lead to massive jump in performance for most traders. Make the decision of when to exit early before the trade. Here's the next tool, the physiological reset. When you feel that urge to close early, the tightness, the anxiety, hands moving towards the mouse, stop. Take 3 slow, controlled breaths. Specifically, make your exhale longer than your inhale. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system and literally lowers your cortisol response. It pulls you out of threat mode and back into executive function. Then say to yourself, I don't win by taking profit, I win by following my system. Look at the last 20 trades you took. How many of them did you cut before they reached target? And how much did you cut them early by? Was it 70% of the way there, 50, 30? Set a stretch goal for the next 20 trades and aim to improve by at least 20%. So if the gap's typically 40% on average, now you shoot for 20%. If it's 30, you now shoot for a 10% gap. This keeps every trade important. Then review your numbers at the end of every single day. You should see a significant improvement. That's why tool 4 is track and review progress on a daily basis. The best performance coaches in the world use review processes to close feedback loops. Trading journals need to do the same, but most traders journal the wrong things. They write down the entry price, the outcome, the P&L. What they don't write down is the internal experience. So start capturing this. What did it feel like when you entered? What was the urge to exit like? When did it peak? Did I follow my plan? If not, what was the internal trigger? Over time, this data becomes incredibly valuable. You start to see patterns in your psychology, the specific conditions that trigger early exits, and the emotional signatures that precede bad decisions. And once you can see the pattern clearly, you can interrupt it. But none of these work if you're placing too many of the wrong trades. So watch this video next, where I break down my strategy to stop overtrading in its tracks, and I'll see you there.